Fitness Movement is brought to you by Zor Fitness. We offer coaching and individualized program design, as well as educational content for coaches and athletes. It's all one place, zorfitness.com.
All right, today we're going to talk about first responder and military type testing. And Chris specifically has worked with a bunch of people who've been preparing for various different physical fitness tests, essentially. So like they have all these different batteries, depending which branch you go into, what country you're in, what actually you're signing up for. But it's almost like many variations of the same sort of thing. And it was sort of my opinion. I brought this to Chris as an idea because I thought he would probably think a similar way, whereas like a lot of these are just not like good indicators of how someone's going to perform in the field. So we'll kind of like talk about like how maybe they're lacking, how might things recently probably sort of just shift a little bit, at least some of this, even though it's like lagging a little bit, maybe more than it should be. And then like if we were to kind of construct some fitness tests or a battery fitness test for someone in, like a first responder or military type role, what that might look like. I guess first of all, like what experience do you have with people actually preparing for tests from like client perspectives, and like what is like preparation often look like for them?
So, I mean, one of the first people I coached, this is, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago at this point, was prepping to be in the Marines or the Marine Reserves, one or the other. And I want to say at that point in time, the test was a 1 mile run. It was like max sit-ups in 2 minutes, max unbroken strict pull-ups, and I want to say it was max unbroken push-ups or maybe push-ups in 2 minutes, something like that. So it's very body weight, very generic. Maybe the testing protocol, like I said, this was a while back. Maybe the testing protocol has changed a little bit. I know there was a push. I don't know if you remember. Why am I blanking on his name? Chandler Smith. He was in the Army, and I know he was like trying to push to get like the fitness testing for the Army changed. But that was kind of what I saw training him. And then currently I train a guy who is a firefighter as well as in the Canadian military. And so they have a bunch of different tests that they do. And so a lot of that is like sandbag drag and like sprint based, which I think could be applicable. However, I do think it's like, again, I don't want any military hopping on and being like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I've never been in the field. I've never been in the military.
Big disclaimer here.
Yeah.
Neither of us are in the military.
Yeah. So this is outside looking in. And what I've seen training people is, like I said, with my experience coaching a Marine, like I said, very body weight focused. And with the gentleman in the Canadian military, a lot of it is like sprint and odd object based, which I think there's some validity, but it doesn't sound like a holistic, complete test to see how someone's going to react in the field. It's like, how do we put something together to create a snapshot so we know someone's generally fit? That's kind of like the gist I get from it.
Yeah, it's almost like a readiness to start into the training versus like this is actually like, again, a good indicator of how you're going to perform in the field when you're under pressure.
Yeah.
Which like, again, I guess first let me speak on like I've had a guy who is in like special forces do like some SWAT testing, and that one actually wasn't bad. It was like much more. It was like some like vested running and burpees and some like it was actually a little bit more what I thought would be like a better carryover to what he would actually be potentially asked to do versus just like I think it was like farmers carries and some other things involved in it, which again I think is much more applicable to what you're going to see in the field. Like if you're like we were saying, like whether you're a firefighter, if you're in military, if you're EMS, like all those people are going to have to carry a bunch of stuff when they go into somewhere. They got to get there in a hurry. They got to make sure that if there's somebody who's, gets shot, gets injured, is unconscious, they got to get them out. So they got to move somebody or things around, and they have to do that in a hurry. And then it's like potentially for another aspect of, especially like military, they might just be like forced to be like, walking for 10 miles with their pack to get to somewhere, to an insertion point or whatever. So it's like, again, those are like completely opposite ends of the spectrum. But I think in terms of readiness, it's important for someone to always be ready for like either one of those things.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of like what we were talking about before we hopped on the mic. So, a lot of this stuff is, I there was a guy who used to go to one of our gyms who again was in the reserves and was looking to get into like some higher level I don't know the exact word, but group, for lack of a better term. And like he was looking to get into some sort of special forces, and
Yeah.
for the training he did, like I remember him hopping on one of our assault runners, throwing a pack on, and just walking for like an hour.
Yeah.
And that stuff, that's like finding a way to test that, where because a lot of what these guys and gals do is under load. Like they're not running around with nothing on them. It's like no, like
No, never, probably.
ever. And the thing
Yeah.
is, like, this, like that's a very different ask, right? Your gait is different. The endurance is different. The body type of someone who can move for a long distance while being essentially a pack mule is very different. And so that's kind of one of the first things I would put into a fitness test is like whether it's a run or a ruck of some point at a certain distance is like, okay, throw on whether it's a vest or even like throw on a pack that's like where the weight is equal to or close to what's like, what you'd be wearing in the field, and then have it go ruck some sort of standard terrain and have a time to it. Like that would probably be one of the first ones I would look at. And then I do think what I like about the Canadian test is that there is an odd object and a sprint based element.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Because
I was just gonna say that's one of the things that I would really want. Like if I was just the person who has a blank canvas and says like, "Here's my magic wand," military's gonna test this. That'd be, or like really any first responder, like that'd be one of the things that I think needs to be tested is like sprint carry sprint of some sort of thing,
Yep.
right? Like the CrossFit Games has actually done that a lot, and that's like, I don't know how great that is for just like testing a CrossFit athlete. I think it's fine. It's like whatever. But I think for somebody in that role, it's like that's critically important.
Yeah. And so that's where it's like you have to be able to sprint. And I've almost thought like, I don't know how to maybe construct this, but like if you're a police officer, right, or a SWAT officer or in the military, I would assume you have to sprint and then have the ability to bring your heart rate down and make decisions. And I think some way of constructing whether it's involved with shooting, because shooting is involved, but maybe I don't know that that's relevant to someone who's brand new. Like I do think there's separate shooting training that when they let someone in, but even to the effect of like, hey, you're gonna do bike sprints and then you're gonna hop off and then have to answer like these set of questions, or like those light reaction tests or something like that. Like do something like that where it's like, okay, yeah, you have to sprint and we have a sprint and drag, and then this test is like sprint and make decisions. Like how good are you at making decisions under physical and mental duress?
Yeah, it's like mental acuity under high physical stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, again, if there's some way to do that, especially, like, again, if you're looking at, like, making these inclusive to, like, a broad demographic where, like, you have this huge funnel of people that's coming to you, like, in, like, military, it's like, if this is, like, an entry exam, essentially, like, physical exam, then it's, like, you need to make it, like, you're probably not actually going to involve shooting. Like, that would be obviously ideal for that person because that's going to be super important for their success in their job. But, like, that's probably not practical to say, like, here's a live firearm on your first day or whatever. Like,
that's probably not a good idea.
Probably not a great idea. So, I mean, I'm sure, like, again, there's, like, been, like, Tactical Games has done a great job of like putting out education, and they'll like have people who do their events who like are new to it, and like as long as you have someone who's trained there who knows what they're doing and it's like basic firearm safety, you could probably get away with it. But practically, like, you're probably not going to be able to do these at ranges all the time. So it's like, okay, what's like a good similar type test? Again, I think the way we said it before is like the best way to describe it. It's like you're going to do something that gets you really out of breath and highly fatigued, and then you're going to be asked to do something where you need mental acuity, decision making, and to be able to like calm your arousal back down to get to a place where you can have good, like, just cognition.
Yeah. And that's a really hard skill.
Yeah. I mean, like, so for me, that would be like the most challenging aspect of it, right? Like for me, I don't have to like make decisions. Like I don't try to think at all when I'm in a workout. Like I do all my thinking about the workout beforehand.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is my break strategy. If this doesn't go to plan, I'm going to go to plan B, and this is my break strategy, right? It's like,
Right.
I'll have it written on a whiteboard in front of me. I'll have my judge there to count my reps. It's like, I'm trying to put at least amount of thought into the process as possible so that I can just put all of it into my physical performance, where this is very much going to be the other way around, where it's you have to be a little bit more calculated in what you're doing.
Yeah. And again, that's something where, like I said, I only know these sprint tests and like sandbag drag tests and whatever because I'm training this guy right now who's in the Canadian military. But to my knowledge, I don't know that those tests are part of the American military, or I don't
I know of.
Yeah, or I don't know.
It's always like a 1.5 mile run.
Yes.
Max pull-ups. I don't know if any of them do like the presidential testing that was super popular in the States, where it's like V-sit and reaches in there, and it's like in order to be physically fit, you have to be able to touch 4 inches past your toes or whatever. It's like the most ridiculous things. But that's bad. I mean, they've definitely like moved in the right direction, I think, generally with things. But still, like, like right here, I was on the Marines website, and one of the things is that you have to hold like a 40-second plank.
Okay.
Like,
40 seconds?
Like why planking?
Yeah.
Like, is that a good, again, is that going to correlate really well to a person who's performing well out in the field?
Yeah. No. And the other thing is, like, I do think things like pull-ups or push-ups could be viable tests, because you do have to test some sort of...
You have to test some sort of like body weight ability.
Yes, but it's like, again, why not put some weight on them? Like, if I same thing with a police officer.
Probably just because then there's not enough separation. Like everybody, like say a third of the field get a 0 on that. But seriously,
you should be doing push-ups then, I guess. You're a wimp.
So, like, honestly, like the way like tactical games does things, like I think it is like a much better snapshot of like fitness than a lot of these other tests. So like one of the things that you'd see between like CrossFit and like tactical games is that they're not using range of motion standards. Like they're not doing, thrusters and, chest bar pull-ups and stuff like that.
Sure.
Right? It's like move this from here to over there. And it's very like objective A to B sort of thing. And it's usually like distance based, like climb up to the top of that rope and hit the cross member.
Yep.
And I think those sorts of things are a much better test of fitness in the way that you'd want to test it versus something along the lines of CrossFit, especially like the way it's often at in competitions.
Yeah, for sure. Because CrossFit's a sport built on the range of motion of the movements. That's how you standardize everything. And for tactical,
for the most part.
Yeah, and for tactical games, they're trying more to like, okay, I think they're trying to mimic a fitness element to the tactical element, right? And a lot of that is just what's the word I'm looking for? It's more goal oriented is not the word. Like results based. It's like I don't care how you got it done. You got to get the sandbag from point A to point B. You could crawl, you could stand on your head, you could go backwards, but you got to get.
Yeah, that's what I meant by objective. Like there's no like gray areas. Like as long as you get from here to here, which is like obviously the most simple thing to be able to see, it's like then you're good, right?
Yep.
I don't care if you drag it forward, backwards, upside down, do it however you want, get this thing from here to here. Again, something like a rope climb would probably be a great example, and I think probably way more common to see in the field than like you're not gonna have like a series of pull-up bar, like monkey bar across here, but like you're not doing like repeated chin-ups in place, right?
Yeah.
It's not a challenging thing to hang a rope from somewhere and get them to go through.
Yeah.
So I think something like we had mentioned, okay, so like sprint carry, something sort of like mental acuity when you're under high fatigue. So like maybe it could be as simple as like an air bike sprint into some sort of like mental acuity, like maybe not written test, but like some sort of way to measure basic arithmetic, maybe, or like those lights that you said, something along those lines. Maybe like a gymnastics test that's a little bit more like, obstacle course rope climb sort of thing. And again, maybe probably like in a vest or something similar to that, or like gear if they're like a firefighter or whatever. And then the other thing that we kind of mentioned was like a long ruck of some kind, I think would be like essential along with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think dude, in like about 10 minutes, we just solved all the problems that the United States military has with their testing. We have everything down pat.
But here's the thing, right? It's different, as you said, like you're trying to qualify for a different group. When you try to get into a different group, the testing shifts, right? Like now you got to go through Hell Week, which is obviously completely different than doing a 40-second plank. Like
yes,
opposite end of the spectrum. So it's like, and again, one of the big things was something along those lines. If you're going through that sort of process of elimination of people, essentially, it's like you're looking at like how people cope with stress, not just like in the short term, but chronically throughout a period of time. So I think there's ways to do that in afternoon with a battery of tests. And I think this would definitely be a move in the right direction. But this is not just getting us all in here to poo-poo the tests. But obviously, like, there's been a push for them to be improved for the right reasons. So I think moving something along those lines, if we were in control, would probably be the one place for us to start.
Yeah, because these are all the initial tests, right? Each one of the like the Navy SEALs has buds, right? Yeah. Well, that's very different than the person who's like, I think I want to go into the Air Force, or I want to become in the Navy. So, but there's a difference between I'm in the Navy and I'm a Navy SEAL. There's a difference between I'm in the Army and I'm a Green Beret, right? Like those are the guys they're sending in first, and so that's why they do crazy intense things, because what they're being like. Yeah, you're barely going to sleep during buds. You know why? Because there's a chance in the field where you're going to have a high leverage target, and you might have to go 2 days or 3 days without sleeping, or like barely sleeping. So that's why they go through that. Whereas like the other person, who knows? They got in and maybe they could go to be a mechanic or a medic or do something else that's less like intensive. But I do think still from what we've been talking about, the testing for the initial people getting in does have to be at least applicable.
Yeah. I mean, the 40-second plank to buds. I mean, like, come on. Like, I know everybody's got to start somewhere. But really?
You nailed it. Now go bear crawl a mile. It's like, what?
Yeah, that's how intro classes for CrossFit feel sometimes. Like,
that's true.
All right, you're going to do 5 rounds of these kneeling push-ups and air squats. It's like, all right, now we're going to do squat snatches and ring muscle ups. Have fun. Don't get rhabdo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's a little hypocritical, but no, I mean, again, I think big things, it's like, try to, I mean, I would say this to a lot of people who are constructing CrossFit tests too. It's like, pick more things that are objective, A to B type stuff. Mm-hmm. Where it's very easy to measure, and then in this case make it as close to what they're actually going to see, which is going to be like just some of the basic stuff, but like always in like their gear. That's like one of the big missing pieces in my opinion.
Yep, totally agree.
Well, Chris has worked with a bunch of various first responder, military, law enforcement, firefighters, you name it. So yeah, he'd be a good person if you're someone who's preparing for that sort of thing. No, we probably just poo-pooed on it for the last however many minutes. But honestly, like we've talked about this though, like oftentimes the people who are preparing for those type of tests, they're very detail-oriented and good about their training. And it's like, it's almost fun in a way to write that sort of training because they see such good progress because the thing that you're preparing for is so narrow.
Yeah, I mean, the guy I program for right now is a great example. Like, I think we've only been working post-testing, maybe 2 months. And he actually redid his firefighter test recently, maybe last week. And he went from a time of like, basically you have to have 15 to pass. And he finished in like 14:56 last time, like by the skin of his teeth. And he finished in 12:26 recently. And so it's like,
big cushion.
Great, proof is in the pudding, right? And so he was stoked about that. So that's something where it's like, they can see progress pretty quickly. And then it's like, great, you've got it. Now let's maintain your fitness. And then we can look to get stronger. We can look to do something else, right? And now you're more than just studying to the test. Now you're like, cool, I don't got to worry about the test because I can roll out of bed and pass, and not just pass, but be the best. Now let's work to be the best when I'm actually doing the act.
Yeah. People can email you if they got questions. Chris@zorfitness.com.
Hit me up.
Go to zorfitness.com. They can also submit an application to hire you. So we'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Cool, man. See ya.
Thanks for listening today. If you're someone who just started listening to the show, I would encourage you to subscribe so you can stay up to date. If you're someone who's been listening for a while, I would encourage you to rate and review the show. And lastly, the best thing that you can do to support our work is also the best thing that you can do for your performance. And that is by hiring one of our coaches. Until next time, stay the course.